I want to share proof with you that the church as a whole is not going to be taken in the first watch. Why the church is going to sleep during the first watch. Matthew chapter 25, we hear a parable from the Lord here about wise and foolish virgins. And he talks about how 5 were foolish and 5 were wise, and how they all slumbered and slept. Now, in Matthew 25, verse 6, it says, "At midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him." Now, I've shared with you in the past that the bridegroom the translation was lost. It wasn't that the word is wrong, it's that the meaning that we have today is wrong. Bridegroom simply means that the two have become one. And the reason it says go out to meet him is because she has become one with him, the bride. But those that awake at midnight, this is the church as a whole. And the reason they're not being taken until the second watch is because they missed the wedding in the first watch. Now, I'm going to prove to you by the scripture that, and what most people know, that the wise virgin is a type of the church. Most know that. And that is true. And if this is true, that the church are exemplified by the wise virgins, or typified by the wise virgins, then we see that the wise virgins do not wake up until the midnight hour. Now, if you understand the watches of the Lord, the first watch, the second watch, and the third watch, you'd understand that the first watch takes place. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's take a look. This is, let me see here. And you can find this just about anywhere on the internet, but we'll go ahead and use this we'll use this website here for our information. But this is the watches of the night, or the watches, I should just say. And hopefully you'll understand by looking at these watches. The first watch takes place between 6 o'clock p.m. and 9 o'clock p.m. The second watch takes place at midnight. Are you listening? At midnight, 9 o'clock to midnight. So between 9 o'clock and midnight is when the second watch takes place. Now, we won't go into the third watch or the fourth watch at this time. We'll cover that in another message. What I want us to understand is the first watch and the second watch. Now, going back to the scripture, keep this in mind, that the first watch is between 6 and 9 p.m., and the second watch is between 9 and midnight. Remember, Jesus said, "Watch and pray that you may be accounted worthy to escape all these things and stand before the Son of Man." What was he talking about? He's talking about the watches. Okay? Not the clock in this world. Not a watch on your wrist. But the watches of the Jewish watches. So, why is that important? Well, if the first watch takes place between 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock, then we understand that this can't be the church. This can't be the church being raptured or being caught up because we understand from the Scripture, going back to the Scripture, we understand that she doesn't wake up until the midnight hour. That's the second watch. And we understand from Luke, we understand that the Lord's not coming in the first watch, which would be between 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So if the church is not being raptured or caught up until the midnight hour, which is the second watch, and Jesus is not coming in the first watch, does that mean nothing's taking place between 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock p.m.? No, this is where the wedding takes place. How do we know that? Because we look at Luke 12:36. Ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord, when he will return from the wedding. We know that he's returning from the wedding, right? And we know he's returning to those that are going to be taken in the second watch. And we know the second watch takes place between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock midnight. Are you getting the message, folks? He's returning from the wedding. So we understand that the wedding took place sometime between 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock during the first watch. The church is going to be sleeping as a whole. And as I shared with you yesterday, this is part of God's judgment beginning at the house of God, the spirit of slumber. They've been given over to the spirit of slumber. This is the judgment of God when we reject truth. It's not something that God takes lightly when you reject his Son, when you reject the truth. Now, you think you're just rejecting a doctrine. You think you may just be rejecting something someone's teaching, but you're actually rejecting him because he is the Word. So I don't want to share a whole lot more there. I just want you to understand the simplicity that there is a first watch, second watch, and then we will also get into the third watch and fourth watch, if the Lord permit. But right now, I want us to understand the difference between the first watch and the second watch. There is something taking place in the first watch, and it certainly is not the rapture or the catching up of the church. It's a wedding. As we read in the Scripture, let us be glad, rejoice, give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready.